Hey everybody, welcome to finally a new episode of Zach UX. And I know it's been a while between my last video and this video, and there's a variety of reasons for that. I could get into them. They might sound like excuses, but the bottom line is that I just wasn't ready to record like a new video for a little while. Now I feel like I'm ready to go again, ready to kind of release some new content and share some things that I've been working on, teach some things. I'm getting much more passionate about like education and teaching what I'm learning. I think I mentioned this before. I'm a really big believer in that cycle, so to speak. And as a result, here's some more videos for you. So I'm going to dive right into what I'm talking about today. It's going to be kind of like a two-part series. It's kind of what I'm thinking. It's all going to be focused on strategy. So and when I mean strategy, this is like brand strategy, UX strategy, and so like in my case, it's going to be mostly like UX and product driven strategy. That's kind of the world that I'm living in. But I've also had experience kind of doing stuff in the brand strategy space as well. So a little bit of a background, or like a little bit how this kind of connects to my story. I started off as a designer, still design here and there. And what I mean by that is like hands-on, using Sketch or the Adobe Creative Suite to kind of make things, digital products, whatever, UI designs. But as my career has progressed, and as I started working with Toy, my role shifted from being kind of a hands-on designer to more of a like design-centered strategist in like the UX space, the product design space. And what that's done for me has been it's taken my career, taken my journey more towards like facilitating solutions, helping designers and other people on our team and the stakeholders that I work with come up with great ideas and solutions to get executed. I'll get into more of that in a second, but I kind of wanted to bring up that I've been in a great situation where I've facilitated dozens and dozens of workshops, a lot of them with a design sprint, a lot of them with other design thinking methods, and feel again that I want to start sharing some of these experiences and kind of focusing on strategy. Talked about the design sprint a little bit, talked about some other design related things, but I want to kind of do a deep dive in strategy. So I know we're doing at least one video today, and that's this one. But probably we're going to do a little bit of a series totally focused on strategy. So really today's video is focusing on what strategy is in the first place. Now, besides watching this video, there's a great article that I'm going to reference here in the beginning of this video called What the So WTF strategy. So Google that, or WTF is strategy. They'll take you to this article that I think is a great primer, great kind of like baseline definition, or a great way to get started into understanding what strategy is. And the thing about strategy is that it can be a broad definition. It can be used to describe a lot of different things. And one of the points the article makes is that it is a word that's often used, very saturated, especially in today's creative landscape and business landscape. Everyone wants to be a strategist. Everyone talks about having a strategy. Obviously, it's super important. I say that without bias. I think we can all agree that having some level of strategic thinking in a business, a design agency, a company is valuable. So yes, so strategy is definitely a overused word today, but for good reason. There is a lot of merit again to having a strategic mindset when making decisions for your product, your business, your brand. Hence all the brand strategists, UX strategists like myself, product strategy, etc. So one of the main things I took from this article, the WTF is strategy article, is that strategy can be loosely defined as decision making or a plan for decision making based on a vision and a mission, or kind of a high level plan. So what I mean by that, kind of brass tacks, one of my definitions of strategy is that it's informed decision making. So when you're making decisions for your designs or your products, your brand, it's connected to a mission, a vision, a long-term plan, a product roadmap, there's a connection there. This should go without saying, and it has. This is something I've mentioned before in the past. Strategy and design, strategy in business is not a new concept. It's just been labeled as such. That's kind of the recent trend, and that's okay. I'm totally part of kind of that trend that's like, oh, I'm a strategist, instead of a designer, so totally understand kind of why it's going that way. But don't be confused and don't think that if you're just focusing on visual design, you should still be a strategist. And it's just strategy and strategic thinking has always been a part of design. It's just been kind of a little more isolated and seen it as a separate entity. Today. I think there's many reasons why, and we'll probably get into that in a second video as part of this series, but just keep that in mind. So you should always be designing with strategy in mind, whether you call yourself a strategist or not. But basically, that's one of the main things I got from the WTF strategy article. Your decision making should be informed by vision, a mission, a product roadmap. That's strategic thinking in a nutshell. Tons of different ideas and things you could look up, but that's kind of what I'm pulling out from this article and just kind of how I like to define strategy. So that being said, I think there's three factors or three things that happen in every strategic process, at least from the experiences I've gone through. And I just want to this is all like three pieces to the strategic puzzle to kind of use strategy in your design work, or to become a strategist, or to be a strategic focused designer or a thinker. So there's three things that I do in most of the projects I work on at Toy, and I'm going to break them down one by one here. So the first piece of the puzzle is facilitation. Facilitation is a big part of strategy and being a strategist. And that can happen in a lot of different ways, and a lot of things can happen to be in a project or a process. It's part of facilitation, or to be a good facilitator. I think the most obvious one is facilitating design thinking workshops. The design sprint, which we've talked about before, becoming very popular, especially in UX and product world, is a great example of facilitation. So in a large part of the design sprint is facilitating the teamwork and testing and cooperation between engineers, stakeholders, designers, and users. So you're getting everybody on the same page, so to speak. So that design thinking workshops is the most obvious way, but really throughout the whole project, facilitating strategy, facilitating decision making between a diverse group of people or members of the company, whether that's like marketing, sales, engineering, design, business, tech. You're getting everybody on the same page early and often throughout the engagement. And I know that I feel good about what I'm doing as a designer and a strategist when I'm getting that alignment with all the team members and colleagues that I work with the clients and with my team at Toy. If we're all aligned, things are going to go really well. So facilitation to me is just getting everyone to work together early and often to create a lot of clarity and a lot of alignment for the project, for the engagement, for whatever you're working on as a designer or a strategist. So facilitation is a huge part of what strategy is. So that's the first piece of the puzzle. So the second piece of the puzzle in strategy, again from my experience, is translation and surfacing, kind of the same thing. But what I mean by surfacing is surfacing maybe what are some of the high level missions and goals and visions. You'll hear KPIs, OKRs coming out, and I think you need to first surface what those things are, right? And then translate that. So you might hear certain words, certain goals, certain objectives. How can you translate that to or for the designers that you're working with and the engineers that you're working with, or marketing people? Again, the same kind of diverse group of people I was talking about in the first piece of the puzzle. How are you translating that amongst different groups, and even for yourself? Because as a strategist, as you're building up that kind of informed decision-making process, you need to be able to take a lot of different ideas from a lot of different perspectives and translate that for yourself so you could start creating a list of informed decisions, whether it's design, whether it's building a business model, whatever it is, maybe even a brand, right? So translation, a huge part of the process, big piece of the puzzle. Translate for yourself. You're translating for other people that you're working with, other team members. So there's two parts to that again. So the first is, again, surfacing ideas, questions, challenges, goals, KPIs, OKRs, you name it, you're surfacing ideas, right? And then the next piece of that is translation, translating those surfacing ideas into objectives and plans and tactics that are going to be part of your informed decision making. So translation, surfacing, super important. So the third piece of the puzzle, which I think is the most important, is execution, which seems obvious, but it's something worth noting because I think there is a misconception that strategy is just all about like workshops and thinking and making plans and then other people execute, which can be the case. If you're focusing entirely on strategy, you can set up that strategy and then put people in great positions, designers or engineers, for example. You could put them in great situations for them to execute. But that's still part of the execution. So if you're not the one doing execution, you need to make sure whatever you're working on as a strategist is setting others up to be successful to execute. It could be design, it could be a rollout of a new feature on a product or a new product overall. The execution has to take place. Yeah, so just a quick recap. WTF is strategy. Great article to dive in to get learn a little bit about strategy. Big takeaway I had from that article is let your decisions be informed by a vision, a product roadmap, a mission, something that's part of the process. Of course, there's a lot of different ways to describe strategy. That's just one way. 3 factors, again, facilitation, translation of what you've facilitated, and an execution of everything you've come up with, your strategy sessions and your strategies and your tactics, right? Have to have those 3 things to be a good strategist, to have a good strategy. Great ways to get started in strategy. We've talked about this before. If you've been following me on social media, I've probably brought this up. First phase of the design sprint. Great way to get going in strategy, especially from a design or product perspective. Check out the design sprint. Big fans of it at Toy, the agency I work with, obviously. And then Core from the Future/School, Christo, Jose Cavalier came up with Core. Great way to get involved in the strategy especially coming from a design background. So there you are, that's strategy. We'll do some additional strategy videos, as I said. Until then, thanks for sticking with me during this break. Hopefully I'm going to get back in this weekly habit. And thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Do what you need to do in the social media to show me some support and love. Appreciate everyone watching and stay tuned.